This morning, we are looking at the biggest risks the world faces in this new year. The Eurasia Group is a geopolitical risk research and consulting firm, and it releases a much-anticipated annual list of top risks, and it calls 2024, quote, a year of grave concern. Number one on the list, the U.S. versus itself.
Yikes.
The president and founder of Eurasia Group, Ian Bremmer, is with us now. Ian, thank you for being here.
Always good to be with you guys.
The U.S. versus self, you're going to have to explain that one. And also, you say this was not a close call.
No, it's not a close call because the U.S., of course, is the most powerful country in the world. The economy's in very good shape. The U.S. is the only country with a global military that can project its power all over the world. But it's also by far the most dysfunctional political system among the wealthy democracies. We are the only wealthy democracy that cannot guarantee a free and fair, legitimate transfer of power, which is essential to a functional democracy. I travel all over the world. Our allies are deeply, deeply concerned about the state of U.S. democracy in 2024 and this election process. Our adversaries see this as an opportunity for chaos that they will be able to operate in. It is. I've never seen anything like this in my life, right?
Because there's so much misinformation?
Yes.
Is that the issue?
Indeed, because inside the U.S. you have people that no longer believe in or trust any of their major institutions, things like the judiciary and Congress and the president, but also things like the media and social media and the church. And when you look at that, I mean, those numbers have just been going down, down, down to unsustainable levels.
Yeah.
And you now have antagonists between Trump supporters and Biden supporters that do not share the same basic understanding of facts. In other words, very much like Israel and Hamas, very much like Russia and Ukraine.
Number two, you say it's only getting worse this year. Why?
The Israel-Hamas war.
Because it's hard to see the war being contained, if I can use that term, to the territory of Gaza. There are so many ways for this to escalate. First, the fact that the Israelis, and not just Netanyahu, but the entire war cabinet, want to use this to prevent other organizations from threatening them going forward, especially those that don't recognize the right of Israel to exist. And that means Hezbollah, degrading their military capabilities, pushing them back from the border. That risks a war. Then you have the Houthi issue from Yemen. The Americans have tried to deter them, including with allies. Hasn't worked, not as long as this war is going on. That means the U.S. is more likely to bomb them in Yemen. That would expand the war. Then you've got the Iranian proxies in Syria, in Iraq. You've got the radicalization of millions of Muslims around the world, some of whom will turn to violence, some of whom will engage in lone wolf attacks, some of whom will join terrorist organizations. So when I look at all of that, it's hard to see how this war remains contained to Gaza. And that doesn't mean U.S. versus Iran, $200 oil global recession, though it's possible, but it does mean it's going to get worse.
And then you've got Russia and Ukraine third on the list, and you say there actually is a link between these three top items. What is that link?
Well, the link is that in each of these cases, there's virtually no engagement in diplomacy between the two sides. Right? Not between Republicans and Democrats. No, they're just looking at impeachment and trying to get each other off the ballot and all that. Not between Israel and Hamas. Possibilities of a two-state solution in this environment, zero for the foreseeable future.
Do you have any good news on the list, Ian?
I do.
Do you?
A couple of pieces
Let's
of
hear it,
good
please. Yeah.
One is that there are so many, billions of people are going to the polls this year. And other than the United States, most of these elections are going to be quite stable and smooth. Mexico, India, the European Union, Indonesia, massive areas of populations and economics that are really unsurprising, very stable transitions.
It's sort of chilling to hear that the United States isn't stable, but go ahead. Less than 30 seconds.
And the second big one is that the United States versus China, which is the most important geopolitical relationship in the world, the U.S. is not looking for another crisis to add to this, especially in election year, and the Chinese economy is really underperforming. And that's why they're engaging so much at the high level. There are going to be problems like the Taiwan election next week, the South China Sea, but they will both be adults and try to manage them in 2024. That's a surprising piece.
A quick yes or no. Concerned about AI?
More excited than concerned, but concern is there.
All right.
All right, Ian Bremmer, always good to have you here. Never enough time when Ian Bremmer's sitting in the chair.